Yeah, so tell me about the market.
Yeah,
How is the New York market?
the New York
Because
market, I mean, we'll see, the past 3 weeks, including this week, are on fire for us as a firm. Just as many deals as pre-COVID numbers.
wow.
We've been doing a lot of reports, even as little as, pre-phase two, we were down 67%, early COVID, we were down 87%, meaning deals per week.
Hmm.
But the deals that are happening are definitely, the average purchase price and under, right there, the 1.5 and under. We have some sprinkles of high-end deals, but definitely nothing significant. Out of 40 deals, maybe 3 or 4 over $2 million. So it's clearly, and I think it's the natural transition, the buyers and the sellers that, maybe it's their first purchase, or maybe they're upgrading, or maybe, their life events, right? They, are switching jobs, or they're maybe getting divorced, or they're
Yeah.
having a child. The high end of the market, definitely there's opportunistic purchasers, but a lot of them are kind of sitting tight. And I just spoke to a big client of mine that's trying to buy for, one of their children, and is looking for 20% discounts. I texted a few brokers I knew, and, new development, maybe you get 10%, 15%, 20%, super aggressive. So that's, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
So why don't I introduce you? So thanks, Sylvette, for joining. Stacey is actually in a entrepreneur group for, it's called Savvy Ladies, that focuses on female entrepreneurs, with Sharon in my office, one of my colleagues. And Sharon's always had amazing things to say about Stacey. So we want to talk about, kind of open it up a little bit about, we're all entrepreneurs to an extent, even, me as an attorney, right? We're all in sales. We all have our background, but especially the brokers. And just talk about, how, I guess, protecting yourself, and what to think about, and how to, I guess, what some of your successes have been with the group, and what you look for to, build your book of business, right? Because we're all, referral based. We're all, trying to build our book of business, and give, exceptional service, and use that as a platform to build more business.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm right there with you, Andrew, and happy to talk. I mean, I feel like I could write several books about starting a business, and how you do it with no network. I'm from Michigan originally, grew up growing our own food, um, on a farm, about as different as can be: horses, dogs, cats, rabbits, birds, you name it. And launched myself here in New York, and eventually, after several years of working on Wall Street, decided to start my own firm, and started charity. The charity itself, Savvy Ladies, focuses on empowering women through financial education. All the services are free, and typically we are helping women that are lower income. And then through Francis Financial, we're quite unique. We are your power partners when it comes to real estate, because the majority of our clients are buying and selling real estate. 70% of our clients are either going through a divorce, or their spouse has passed away. And in the majority of cases, they're selling properties. It could be one property, it could be two, depending on, whether it's in New York City, Hamptons, Florida, Tahoe, things like that. So definitely real estate is our right-hand arm. And, what I wanted to talk about today is, how do you launch your own business? Because in real estate, that's really what it is. And how do you protect yourselves financially? And I think COVID, what it has taught us is that there's a lot we can't control. And it also has taught us the fragility of the way many of us are compensated. And so it means that as we go in this area where now the market is opening up, we're seeing, a lot more activity in the real estate market, and commissions starting to slowly roll back in. my hope and my wish for everybody listening today is to use this as an opportunity to get clear about what you want your finances to look like in the next 6 months, year, 5, 10, 20 years. Because for many of you, you have gone through a very stressful time where no money was coming in and realize, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. I should have done X, I should have done Y. And right now, you're being given an unbelievable blessing of the market coming back fairly quickly. It may not be as quickly as you would like, but the market is coming back. And so we have this wonderful opportunity to do a redo with our finances. And so that's what I want to talk about. And I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but I will tell you the number one thing that we see smart entrepreneurs doing is figuring out where they want to go, what their goals are, getting really clear about their spending. And when we talk about spending, for the average person walking around New York, it's just their everyday spending. But for you, it's different. It's also the spending through your company on what you have for marketing, for public relations, for printing flyers, whatever that is, because every dollar you spend reduces that income. So getting a clear idea. Your credit score is important. It allows you to do a lot of things, get better prices for cell phones, for insurance, and as you know, so key, you see it with your clients, helps you be able to get real estate and debt where some others can't. An emergency fund, and this is different. Your emergency fund as a business owner is different. You need an emergency fund for you as a person to exist, but also for your business, so that if there is another COVID situation, you can recover and rebound. Retirement planning, we'll talk about that. You are more so invested in having to plan for your retirement. No one is going to be putting money away. There's no defined benefit plan typically in the real estate brokerages, that putting money away for you. You're responsible. So how can we maximize it for us? And then, of course, making sure that your money is invested for you long term. All right, so essentially what you want to do is you want to make sure your goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-based. But when I say that, when do you want to hang up your hat with real estate, or at least have the option where income is something that's not necessary to live your life? And so you need to do that and then work backwards. And I have a great example of a woman that we worked with, and her goal was to buy a ski house with beautiful stables for her horses up in Burlington, Vermont. And as we know, Burlington, Vermont is a whole lot less expensive than New York City. But we were able to work backwards to really figure out how much she needed to save to be able to make that dream a reality. And that's what I, definitely encourage all of you to do. Of course, whether it's real estate or it's retirement or it's sending your kids to college. And, the big key for a lot of people, it's less about what you earn, it's more about what you spend. And I will tell you, we have worked with individuals who make $100,000 a year, and they come to us and they have $1 million saved in their investment accounts. Phenomenal. We have individuals who come to us who make $1 million a year who don't even have $100,000 saved. Right? So while what you earn is important, the biggest factor we have that's going to impact whether or not you're going to reach your goals is really how much you spend. And so the most important thing is to really understand what you are spending. Every single American has changed their spending during COVID. And the way they've changed their spending is that it's gone down. And you see the type of lifestyle you can exist on. And what I challenge you to do is to keep that COVID mentality of low spending as we slowly continue to open up. Because all those dollars that went towards Ubers, went towards taxis, that went towards expensive nights out on the town, I'm not saying that you have to chuck all of that, but think about how much you could save and how much more flexibility you would have if you did that, and how much less stress you would feel in your job about closing that next deal. So this is something that I highly encourage you, and it's a great reset. And I know for us, it's for me, myself even. We looked at a study, Thomas Stanley did this study and about millionaires. And he interviewed several hundred millionaires. And just to give you an idea, their average net worth was almost 4 million. You can see that here. But what was unique is that their average income was a little over 100,000. The type of house they lived in was not so expensive, so you can see most likely not New York City. But this is the key. This is the key. They invest 20% of their income. And I understand that's a big number. It took me nearly 20 years to get there. And what I did is I started off being able to save 1%. And then the next year when I got a little bit of a raise, I saved 2%. And slowly over time, where now I'm able to put away religiously that 20% of my income on an ongoing basis. Now, I'm just like you too. I'm a wealth manager. The market goes up, we make more money. The market goes down like it did in COVID. And trust me, we make a lot less. But what I try to do is at the end of the year to look back, and maybe some months I could put more away and others I couldn't put anything, but I try and average it out to that 20%. So you being in commission, that's something that you need to think about, is that those feast and famines, that when you have the feast, maybe you're putting more of that away, maybe 30%, so that when the famines come along, you don't have that pressure to be able to save on top of just your normal expenses. This is one of the most scary things, tracking your spending for 1 month. Easy thing to do, just use mint.com. I use it. It tracks your spending for you. It even categorizes it. And once you connect your credit card, it will actually go back several months for you. So this is a really easy no-brainer to start to get a really good handle on where your money's going. And an entrepreneur tip here is that make sure that your spending for your business is on one card. Your spending for anything personal is on another card. Never let them get mingled. It's like oil and water. They never, ever should mix. They always fall apart. It's the same thing with your spending. And that's really key, not only for your taxes, so you can deduct every single business expense you possibly can, but also for getting a better idea of what your spending really is, not only for you personally, but for the business. So here's some pre-COVID expenses that people don't have during COVID. And this is someone who just made some small tweaks and had an extra $5,200 a year. That's almost the whole amount that you need to max out an IRA. And so what I'm just trying to show here is that it's the small things that often add up that we don't think about, and that some small tweaks by just not having the dry cleaning, saving on the bottled water, all these things make a pretty big difference. So how can you do it? Saving 20% of your income, it sounds like it's a pretty easy thing to do, but it's not. And so what you want to do is that if at all possible, before your commission is paid out, ask if you can possibly have a certain portion diverted to a different account, maybe a different savings account. If there is a 401k set up through your employer, having a portion go through that 401k. If you don't have the capability of a 401k through your employer, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how to set one up yourself, but you want to immediately have that money go to that account before you get it where you're tempted to spend it. Because what we find is that the money that never goes in your hand, we typically don't miss. The people who really screw up are the ones who get their commission checks and say, at the end of the month, I'm going to put X amount of money away towards retirement or towards my emergency fund or towards my credit card debt. It doesn't work, because by the end of the month, that money that you had that good intention to put away and make that difference doesn't happen. You end up spending it. And I liken it to having Godiva chocolates on your desk. If I have Godiva chocolates on my desk, I am eating them. I am eating them. And most likely I'm not going to be sharing. So so here are some other quick goals. Pay cash. Studies show if you pay cash, it is actually physically painful for people to part with cash, especially, let's say, breaking a $100 bill. And so anyone who starts to pay cash for those everyday incidentals immediately starts paying less. If you have credit card issues, have one credit card and have the rest locked away. If you have too many cards, don't close them because, as you know, that's going to hurt your credit score, but just cut them up and not use them. And then the third tip, which is my biggest tip, is that don't spend more than $100 on anything without taking some time to think about it. And maybe it's shoes, maybe it's tickets to a sporting event once that opens up. But essentially what we find is that a third of the individuals who take that time, that 24 hours, actually end up making that purchase, but the other 2/3 decide that it's not that important. So this is another really key piece, because from the majority of us, a lot of it is impulse buying. So here are a couple sources. I talked about Mint. Two others, Pocket Expense, really nice. They have great, iPhone, very easy to do on there, and Good Budget is also. So these are free, easy to track your expenses, give you reports, and so a really good tool to use to start to get a handle of what that spending really is. All right, so if you have credit cards, the first thing you want to do is pay off any high interest debt. So that's your credit cards, overdraft. Then once you've done that, looking at student loans, car payments, and then finally IOUs, things like that most people don't have those. As you know, being in the real estate world, things that you don't want to pay off are your mortgage, especially now with rates as low as they are. And so if you have any clients that are unsure about what they can afford because they are not sure if they really want to get a mortgage, trust me, have them speak to me and I will convince them to get a mortgage. In fact, the largest mortgage that they can possibly get, because we know that mortgage is cheap debt and it's also tax deductible up to $750,000. So it's really a no-brainer for individuals. If you do have credit card debt, now is a great time. You, the consumer, have the power. We're seeing a 50% success rate of individuals calling their credit cards and negotiating down their interest rate. And all you have to do is pick one of those credit card offers that you get in the mail and say, I'm very interested in moving my accounts to Chase, and they're offering me a rate of X. Can you match it? And so a lot of individuals have been able to whittle down the interest rate on their credit cards, and then also potentially roll over to a new credit card at a 0%. That's a smart thing to do, but know two things. Rolling over to a 0% credit card, typically there is a fee to do so. And number two, that 0% typically is for 6 months to a year on the amount you roll over, the debt you roll over, but not necessarily for new purchases. So that's just, again, something to know, kind of a power tip to be careful. So what goes into your credit rating? You guys probably know this better than I do, but essentially the majority is your payment history and how much credit you've taken out, that 35% in purple. And so this, I would be careful for your clients too. We had someone who came to us that had very poor credit score. It was in the 500s. And what we had seen is that every month he was getting pre-approved for a different property to purchase. And he had been doing this for a year. And of course, every time you have a pull on your credit for the purposes of getting a mortgage, purposes of getting a credit card, or any other type of loan, it's going to hurt your credit. Ordering your credit report is not going to hurt your credit, and you can do that easily through annualcreditreport.com. It's free, it's easy, And you can see exactly if there are any negative credit hits on your report. So here you go, annualcreditreport.com. If you want your FICO, you know what that is. It's myfico.com. That's for your actual credit score. Emergency fund. This is really, really key. And there are two pieces. There's your personal emergency fund, which is 3 to 6 months of expenses. But ideally over time, and it took me, trust me, years to be able to do this, but you want 3 to 6 months of expenses to fund your business expenses too. I put here, and I did some research, who has the highest interest rate right now? And these are our 4 podium launchers. So we have on the podium, Capital One, Ally Bank, Barclays, and then Marcus by Goldman Sachs. These are also great tools to share with your clients who say, hey, we've got a lot of cash for the down payment. Where should I be keeping it? This is a good value add for you to be able to know some of these top places where they can earn the most on that cash that's sitting idle, waiting for it to be put to use in buying real estate. So again, Marcus, Barclays, Ally, and Capital One. So as I mentioned, 3 months of your personal living expenses, 3 months of expenses to operate your business, and that is your target. Now, there are some alternatives. When I first started the business, I didn't have 2 nickels to my name. And eventually I was able to apply for a business line of credit. And for many years, I didn't have cash on hand, but I did have that business line of credit open. Now I don't have that situation. I have cash on hand, but again, it took me many years to be able to do that. And so once I qualified for a business line of credit, I didn't use it, but it was really helpful to know that I had $50,000 if, God forbid, I needed it in a business line of credit. Now you can also do that with a HELOC, but of course, as you know, you have your primary residence then that you are using as collateral. But here are some ways that you can get to that emergency fund if you don't necessarily have cash on hand quite there. I know it's hard to think about retirement. For me, I'm in my mid-40s, so retirement feels pretty far off for me. But trust me, it will never happen unless I start to think about it now. And the earlier you think about retirement, the sooner you're going to get there. What I want to show you is a really important piece because there's no magic number as far as how much you need for retirement. What I need is going to be different than what Al needs and what Andrew needs, or what Tony or Robin or Julian needs. Each one of us is going to be a little different. And what I will give you is what I think is the best calculator out there, other than working with a financial planner. So this is the place where you can find it. It's at T. Rowe Price. I can go ahead and put this information to follow up with everybody who's been on the Zoom webinar here today. And what you need to do is figure out what age you want to retire, how long you expect to be in retirement, whether you're going to be married or not, how much you have already saved, and how much money you want from your portfolio. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what this looks like. So I just put in a mock of, and again, this is online, free to everyone, that they want to retire at age 65. They expect to be in retirement 30 years. So that's AKA they expect to die by 95. So that's what they mean. Their status single. And the reason why that's important is that puts the tax rates. They have $1 million that they have saved. They want $4,500 a month from their portfolio. So they need their portfolio to pay them $4,500 a month to exist. And how they're invested, this 40-40-20 is they have 40% that they're investing in stocks, 40% that they're investing in bonds, and then this 20% piece is invested in cash. And they want 80% success. So 8 out of 10 times, they want to make sure that their portfolio can produce that $4,500 each month. The other 20%, they're comfortable. Maybe there are certain months because the market went down and they're willing to reduce their expenses. And if we take a look, does that $1 million that they've saved right now work for them to be able to retire at 65 and not have to save any money between now and then? Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. The amount that they can successfully take from their portfolio without running the risk of drawing it to zero by age 95 is they can take out $3,700. So what does that mean? There's a couple things that they could have done to make things different. For example, maybe they would have invested more aggressively. 40-40 with 20% in cash, I think is a pretty dumb move, even for someone in their 60s. If this is money for the long term, I would say that there should be no cash. And moving that 20% to stocks would have easily allowed them to take that $4,500 out. The second thing is great, they've saved $1 million and that sounds wonderful, but you know, it's not going to be enough. They shouldn't be sitting on their sitting back. They should continue to add towards their retirement. And so what I would encourage them to do is to continue on that path of putting money away. So how you use this is, again, just put when you want to retire, how long you expect to live, and if you figured that out, you let me know, because I'd love to know that too. How much you have in already saved for retirement, what you want that monthly goal to be for how much you want to pull out, what you currently have invested, and then the percentage, and see how far off you are. Because again, most likely you're not there yet. We've got a lot more to do. But what you could do is say, all right, if I save, let's say I have $500,000 saved now, let's say I save another $250,000 by the time I'm age 65. Am I going to get there? So it's a really fun calculator to see, are you on track? Now understand that income, that $4,500 we said, we didn't include Social Security because you get to add Social Security on top of that, right? And so it's important to understand that, there are other areas of income for you. And yes, Social Security is going to be there. I'm very confident to say that for people in my generation as well as the younger generation. But it may not be as lavish as the Social Security paychecks that maybe our parents or our grandparents are collecting right now. It will be there, but it may not be as lavish. So I wanted to go to this part because I think this is really important. I want to make sure that we wrap up in a good amount of time. These are the most powerful tools you have for self-employed people to be able to put money away for retirement. You can start your own 401k, super easy, and you're happy to talk to you about it. It's called a solo 401k. And you can put in up to $57,000 or $63,000 if you're over age 50 each year. Phenomenal. You can even put a Roth 401k, and you may not have heard about Roths, but what's beautiful about a Roth 401k is that whatever it grows to, everything comes out tax-free. With the regular solo 401k, not possible. What you put in, you get a tax benefit now, but when you take it out, Uncle Sam is there and saying, pay me. And you are taxed on every single dollar as if it came to you in your paycheck. So of the two, the Roth 401k for a lot of people is the better. If you don't want to do a 401k, an even easier option, and this is actually what I did when I first started my business and didn't have more than 2 nickels, is I set up what's called a SEP IRA. You can do this with Vanguard, with Charles Schwab, anywhere. Even the places where you currently bank at, I know they can set up a SEP IRA for you. What's nice about this is you can put in also a pretty hefty chunk of change, up to $57,000. Now, unfortunately, that number, that 25% of your compensation, if you're able to pull in, let's say, $500,000, which, wow, that would be unbelievable. 25% of your compensation is not able to go into the SEP IRA. So you can't necessarily then put in $125,000. They cap it at that $57,000. The money that comes out, you get a tax benefit right now, but every dollar you take out, you are going to pay taxes on. This is one of the easiest ways that you can put money away for retirement, and you don't have to put a full $57,000 away. For me, I just put whatever I could. Something that everyone can do. So these IRAs you can do in addition to a retirement plan at work. So this is in addition to a solo 401k or SEP IRA. This is on top of it. This is like the icing on the cake, the cherry on the sundae. Anyone can put money in a traditional IRA, $6,000, or if you're over age 50, that's $7,000. You can also put money in a Roth IRA, either one. So either the traditional or the Roth. Now the Roth is nice because, as I mentioned, when you take money out, you're not taxed on it. But there are some income requirements. If you make over 124,000, the government doesn't allow you to do that. If you're married and together the two of you make almost 200,000, that also doesn't let you do the Roth IRA. Now, not to get too confusing, but remember how I said this Roth 401k that you could set up yourself as a retirement plan? There are no income limits. So even though you can't set up a Roth IRA and make contributions, you can definitely set up a Roth 401k if you're highly compensated. So I know this is a lot. Happy to walk people through it because this is your key to retirement. This is your key to retirement. And the final piece, I just want to talk to you about investing. I don't know if anyone on the call, this call has been to and been on the cyclone at Coney Island. If you have, you know what I mean by it's quite a roller coaster. That's what the market has been. But no one on this call should be worrying about that because for the majority of us, we're pretty young. We're 60 and below. And so for what we need to be doing is we need to be thinking about, what is the right portfolio for us? And for the majority of us, the right portfolio is anywhere between like a 30% bond and 70% stocks, even though it can have large losses. So that 30% bonds, 70% stocks have losses. The worst annual losses is a negative 30%. But look, on the upside, a positive 41%. And so again, what the most important thing, the two most important things that you can control is number one, how you save, how much you save, but number two, how you invest it and how you allocate it. And I'll just give you a quick example of Selena, Ann, and Hallie and why this is so important. Selena was really smart, started saving $650 a month when she was 25, and not shabby, started at 35, and Hallie was at age 45. And what we see is by the time they're, by the time that they are looking at retirement, Selena has nearly $1 million by saving $650 a month. And Anne started 10 years later. You can see that she has less than half of that amount, and Hallie even just has a quarter. So the most important thing we have, whatever you can do, the most important thing you can do is to start as early as you can with whatever you can. And so the next thing I will just take you to as far as the bottom line is to know your expenses. If you do have credit card debt, don't let it eat you alive. Create a plan to pay it off as quickly as you can and reduce your interest rate or roll over to a 0% card. And make sure that you are taking in charge of your retirement because the majority of brokerages are not saving into your retirement plan. In fact, that's really just not really out there much anymore in the year 2000, 2010, 2020. It's just really not happening anymore. You're the one who's in charge and making sure that even though your income is fluctuating up and down, that you have a plan that you're sticking to and putting at least 20% away each year and trying to work towards that goal over time. So I know I just went through things at kind of warp speed because there's so much that we can, go through. But I'd love to, throw it out there, Al and Andrew, if there's any questions. Happy to talk a little bit more about it. I know we went through the retirement piece, which is quite complicated as far as the different vehicles. But to be honest, it's the most important thing that you guys can be doing.
Stacey, maybe we can follow up, send this presentation to the group.
Yeah, I'll definitely send it out. And there are some great resources also that I will share. I have a podcast for women going through divorce. I had mentioned that over 70% of our clients are are women whose husbands have passed away, or they're going through divorce, or after divorce. And there's some really interesting stuff, particularly around real estate there, because real estate is always a very big piece of the work that we're doing with clients. And the other thing I will share and send that I think is really helpful and would be very smart for someone who's a real estate broker to attend. I host the Association of Divorce Financial Planners every month, and we're virtual right now, which is even better because we break out into groups and network. And picture 30 to 40 wealth managers like me who specialize in clients going through divorce. You want to know these people because often they have 1, 2, even 3 real estate transactions between buying and selling for their clients. So I'll send that out too. There's no cost to attend. You'll see also that there's matrimonial attorneys there, accountants,
So
forensic
those are,
accountants.
I
It's
mean,
a great resource.
yeah, it's all for you, divorce attorneys and matrimonial attorneys. I mean, they're dealing with clients during life events, right? So life events
Exactly.
lead to real estate transactions. Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, that's like a golden token for that. That's an amazing offer. So now I'm glad there's an intimate crowd, because now the intimate crowd
Exactly.
can really take
So
advantage.
yeah, I'll invite you to all of these. You also see Andrew, estate planning attorneys come too. And the reason why they're coming is that they want to know the wealth managers and financial planners, and they also want to know the matrimonial attorneys. And as we know, that's another life event too, that someone's coming to a estate planning attorney. It's, either unfortunately a spouse has passed away, or great news that they're growing and expanding their family and often needing to expand their home too. So yeah,
So
any resources I can be, let me know, because I moved to New York City from Michigan, and I didn't know a soul. And building a business from scratch, it's taken me 20 years, and it's brutal, it's hard, it's wonderful. It's like the cyclone roller coaster. It's like all these highs and lows too. And I feel I just want to try and help other people, because I know how hard it was for me on my own, and I wish someone had kind of guided me to be able to do this as well.
that's incredible. That's so amazing. So do me a favor, everybody on the chat right now, email me with your information so we can, get this kind of information to you, so you'll obviously have a better idea of what it involves. I'll send the general presentation to everybody, and then I'll send the group information to everybody on this email.
Great. And then you know what I'm doing too? I'm putting my email in here. So I'm putting Stacey@francisfinancial.com so that everyone can see that. You're welcome to email me too for any other resources. And the other thing I can help you with, if you guys are interested in getting in the press, if you go to my website, you'll see that we've been very blessed, and we've been in about 500 different media outlets. And I actually wrote a workbook on how you do that on your own. I could never afford to work with a PR agent because they charge about $5,000 a month. And so we just kind of learned how to do it ourselves. And it's worked. That's part of our success of why we've been able to grow as quickly as we have. So happy to, any resources you want, I'm happy to share them with you.
Great, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I'll be sure to send you the list of who was here today.
Yeah, no, great. Yeah, and I'll send you all to the Association of Divorce Financial Planners, and you're welcome to come back as much as you want. And also, just if you are interested in working with that divorce niche, there is actually a divorce real estate designation. It's not that hard to get, and it really does separate you from other real estate brokers out there because of this designation of truly understanding the unique implications, financial implications of divorce and selling real estate. So it's a great resource.
How do you get that?
I'll send you the information. If you look up David Perry, so David Perry is with Brown Harris Stevens.
Sure.
And he is one of those individuals. He actually was one of the first individuals to get that designation. And because I remember us having a conversation about 5 years, and he's like, "Do you think I should get on?" I was like, "Yeah, David, you really should." And it's helped him. It's helped him kind of break through the ceiling to get in front of matrimonial attorneys.
I was married to one, and I used to get a lot of business from him, but then I divorced him.
Yeah.
So
But I'm sure it was still probably worth it.
David Perry, I know David. So, but is there a school where you get? Is there a school?
Yeah, it is. It's actually a online training course that I'll include that in my email as well. But you'll see when you look him up, it's in his bio.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in his bio. And that's because, and you want to put that everywhere. There's very few people that have it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, it's not that hard to get. So.
I wonder if Revenue offers it. I doubt it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Great.
Have a great
Thank you,
evening.
everybody.
Thank you.
Stay
Stacey.
safe. And I'm so happy that your industry is turning around finally for you. I'm so happy.
Amazing. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Have a great day, guys. Thanks again.